again, welcome back. There it goes, Chocolatey Fest. As Mukesh mentioned, thank you to our sponsors. Without that sponsorship, we definitely couldn't have a conference like this. What a conference, man. So I'd also like to thank Lisa Gregory, and she's done a fantastic job of putting this together. And then also our folks in the back here who are doing all the video recording for us. So. And I am bad at the clicker. All right, so let's talk about the future of Windows automation. So first off, Alexa. Oh wait, Windows conference, sorry. Cortana, build me a server. To which the AI replies, what? Build it yourself. Sudo build me a server? Okay. What operating system? Windows Server 2019, please. It's thinking. This indicates power. I heard you say Ubuntu server. Is that correct? We'll fix it. And this is IT like the way we want to do it, right? When we have problems. All right, so now I present the future of Windows automation. So the year is 2017. Future, 2017. The government has been working on a top secret defense system. Let's call it Skynet. All right, so Skynet has become aware, and a nuclear attack is launched on humankind. Many die. And so to survive, those that have survived that nuclear holocaust get to battle these robots, right? And we also get some really interesting, futuristic 1980s type clothing. Really, really awesome. So there is some upsides here. We do have a leader of the resistance. He's in the room. His name is John O'Connor. And he knows how to control the machines. So he's going to lead us through this. In the new world, homes are at a premium. We actually live on this like crazy place that looks a little bit like the moon with buildings. I don't know. I guess that's what they think this future is, like when it's a deep, dark, post-apocalyptic world. And going underground, that's the key. That's where that prime real estate is. That's where you go if you want to live, right? And so maybe have a family, just survive. So that keeps you away from those robots. This is probably what you all are thinking about right now. All right, so now I want to present future of Windows automation. And this clicker is killing me. I guess I got to stand back to where it can see me. All right, so years unknown. We're in the 21st century. Does anybody know which one I'm talking about now? Anybody at all? You're going to get it in about half a second. So the good news is we've really doubled down on our command line interfaces. I mean, look at that user experience. You can almost see people in there. It's great. Just going to town. This is Windows. This is Windows. I think this is Windows 2025 right here. The downside is we are batteries now for the machines. And so you get the choice. Do you want the blue pill or the red pill, right? Do you want to believe? I mean, the nice thing is that the clothing is definitely better than Terminator. So we do get to wear this really swank clothing, which is kind of nice. There is like this one that's, it's real good. Sorry about that. We get to learn at an alarming rate. Just plug into something, and all of a sudden, I know C#. I know PowerShell, right? I go into workshops. I now know internalizer. I now know Docker. It's good stuff. All of like 10 seconds. Won't that be great? This is a great future. All right, so what if I told you you can do DevOps on Windows? All right, so now I want to talk about the future of Windows automation today. All right, so come with me. All right, a little bit about me. 12 years of experience in infrastructure automation, and I love user experience, making that user experience better, making it very smooth for folks. And I've been working in modern automation scenarios for quite a while, way back before they called it DevOps, right? That's kind of that movement we've seen over the more recent years. So what we hope to accomplish is we're going to take a look at the past and some of the lessons there, and then we're going to look at the current, and then we're going to look at some possible futures, right? Because it's not really easy to predict the future. And then maybe we'll talk about a little bit something that's a little closer to home for us, and that's a little bit more closer future of packaging automation. So let's get started. So we're going to go back long time ago. So come with me on this journey. Going back, too far. I think we went a little too far. All right, let's come forward a little bit. Okay, that's a little closer. There we are. So the rotary phone. How many people in the room have never seen this? Right? That's good. Now, how many people in the room have children? And how many of your children have ever seen a rotary phone? Oh, okay, couple. How many of them have seen like the floppy disk? Why does that mean save? Right? We're getting into a world where you're like, what are these things? What are these icons? Why does that mean save? And so when it comes to this concept of a rotary phone, if we take a look at that, that looks like antiquated technology. So now let's go back just a little over 10 years ago. Before there was Chocolatey, before PowerShell was really amazing. Because if you remember, and how many people worked in Windows XP, Windows Server 2003? And do you remember when that was what you had and that was awesome? Before all the CVs and security findings came out? Right, so Windows Vista was just getting ready to come out. Windows Server came out like the next year. And there really wasn't much in Windows automation. I think Tony said it best this morning when he said, we had shell scripts, we had VB scripts, and that was our automation, right? And so PowerShell, still really new. New concept, people are kind of looking at, this is kind of interesting, can't really do much with it in version 1. And so 2009, of course, we have PowerShell version 2. Comes out, we can actually run like scripts and stuff and save them, it's pretty amazing. Of course, we get our Windows Server R2, and I'm not sure on that last note on 64-bit computing, we may have already had it for a minute, but it really started to become a thing, right about that time. And WinRM version 2, still probably a VB script somewhere down in the bowels of the Microsoft stuff. Don't ever go down that path if you don't want to know. Might be a VB script in there, just saying. Right, so everybody loves PowerShell. The people that stuck around with PowerShell in Windows at that time are the people that actually kind of started to see some of the benefits of that. And that's probably a lot of you in this room. Maybe you left Windows and maybe you've come back. Maybe you're just looking at Windows for the first time. And so from where we are now, today, the past is that rotary phone, right? And so our ghost of Chocolatey future, current, is this lady. She's very excited. She is always excited in my slides about chocolate. I don't know why. She seemed perfect for that. We've seen some really great talks today. And so what we're seeing in today is that we can do modern automation with Windows environments. So DevOps tooling is possible on Windows. So what's made that possible, right? And so as we look to that, we look at number one, PowerShell. Without PowerShell, I don't think any of us would be here, right? So thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for the Windows team for that. Is Joey still in the room? There he is, Joey. Make sure they know that. Thank you to those guys. And then, number two, package management. That's a real important thing, making sure that you have some singular methodology that can apply really to all of the ways that you install software instead of MSIs, shell scripts, all that stuff. Being able to wrap that into something singular like Chocolatey and then deploy that is a pretty powerful concept, because then you got building blocks, right? And you got versioning. And then there's been a lot more focus on CLI coming from Microsoft, lots of Windows improvements in the APIs even that really have helped us along. Right? And so when we start looking, do we say, when you see, well, let's say Twitter came out, there was another tool that came out as well, and we asked, maybe did the best tool at the time win? It's not always the answer. So sometimes the technology that gets out there fastest, that has the best integrations, that's the one that actually is the one that tracks people in, that's the one that actually wins out. And hopefully over time they refine it so that it does become the actual best technology for for the job. And so if you need to automate software deployments, we have a tool for that. So I'm going to borrow from Donovan Brown, rub a little chocolatey on it. Oh. So when we look at tools that are out there that have done well, we say, why are tools like Chocolatey doing well? And so you just have a 12-step process to figure that out. We'll come back to that. But so Chocolatey, it simplifies things. It breaks down these complex tasks into to steps, right, with an extremely flexible canvas. That's where the PowerShell comes in. And then it does all this other stuff, right? And I won't make you read it. So really, it's just follow this 12-step process. Now, I have probably a free t-shirt or something. Does anybody know what this is? Has anybody seen this? Nobody.
I've seen the original.
Dentist in a box, right? Right, so DevOps in a box. Doesn't exist. All right, so when we look at the future, when we talk about Windows automation, is the next big thing desktops? Right, so if you think about your environments, you have servers, you have desktops, you have other things. Is that next thing that you're really trying to automate if you've already got the servers, is that desktops? Is it less traditional Windows, right? Is the answer of Windows automation that there's actually less Windows, right, and other things instead? And so as we start to think about that, we actually have to think about, what do our future coworkers look like? How does that office look, right? And so, I hate this thing. But we're starting to see more of this bring your own device or semi-connected environments, right? And as you think about that, when you're putting your data onto these people's machines, how do you deal with information retention? How do you answer all the security questions? How do you get rid of that data when they leave or they go rogue or they lose their stuff? And also very important, when your data is on those, how do you deal with software upgrades and deployments? And so we're thinking, technology is going to evolve, it must evolve to answer these questions because we think that's what you're going to see is more of this less traditional workforce of today. And anybody in here that's remote already does some of this, right? And so some of those future possibilities, VDI, right? Virtual reality, AI and machine learning. Maybe we need to be looking at what's in Linux today as the future of Windows automation tomorrow. And so let's talk about each of those. So as we talk about virtual reality and the VR and the headsets, right? Imagine I'm going to go to work today, right? And so all I do is I put on a VR headset, and then my fingers are the keyboard all of a sudden. So I got like kind of this Minority Report. Maybe not as cool. I definitely wouldn't look cool when I'm doing this, right? And so it's more of an immersive type of thing if VR really becomes, and how many people have ever tried the HoloLens? Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? And so if you can start thinking about the application of that in business use, you can think about application of that in a whole bunch of other uses like video games and all of that. But as you start thinking about how can that actually apply into business use, there's definitely things out there. I think at some point there will be conferences where it's completely VR. In fact, I know they've already done stuff like that. So, but as VR becomes more for the masses, I think we're going to start to see more of this. And again, if you're remote, you're already doing some of this. You just don't have that nice immersive feeling that goes along with it. And so this is going to bring that whole new level. And so we talk about virtual clients. We're talking about a bit of history repeating itself. So, once a long time ago, we had these supercomputers. We had dummy terminals, right? And so now when you look at these virtual clients, again, we're going down that path once again to that. And we're seeing that in the form of Amazon workspaces, VDI. Sometimes you might start seeing more functions as a service, maybe applied to business operations and other types of technologies that are out there that do that. Citrix has done that for a long, long time, right? The nice thing, sorry, I'll go back to that really quickly. The nice thing about that, though, is when we start talking about information retention and security and all of that, they're logging into something or they're pulling this data. They don't actually have it physically on those devices that they bring to the table. So there is that, and that's kind of handy, right? So, machine learning. So part of that, the whole Cortana, right? As we start to see more of these natural language enhancements, it becomes more of a conversation with our AI. Like, hey, Cortana, Siri, whatever, what's my schedule today? And that's not really a future thing, because I can already do that today, right? But it's going to get a little bit better. Like, hey, I need you to schedule a meeting for next week, and I need you to invite these 3 people to it. They become more of an assistant type of thing. And again, that's also out there now, right? So that's not as far reaching as that. But as you start to get into more of that, build me a server, right? And so how does that apply to our repeatable automated processes? And how does that apply to Windows? There it goes. We used to say you could look at what Linux is doing today, and that's what the automation is for Windows tomorrow. That's not necessarily the case anymore. Nowadays, we're seeing Windows becomes a first-class citizen very, very quickly, right behind the Linux stuff, right? So Docker. Docker's a great example of that, right? Kubernetes, right? All of that stuff, you're starting to see the technologies for Windows, they come up very quickly now. And it used to be like years, and it's not that case anymore. And so this isn't necessarily a good place to look as much anymore. Or if you are looking, you're looking very quickly. And so another thing we have to ask ourselves is, how is Windows itself changing? Is that something that we need to look at? Is it changing? What is Microsoft doing with that? And so we've seen a trend over the years where it feels like things have moved more towards this consumer model, right? Where I go to an app store to install something, sort of kind of that Apple's approach. Although I'm curious, is Apple kind of looking towards the iOS platform and trying to do that with the Mac OS platform and kind of bring the two together? And then I wonder the same with Windows. And Windows, Microsoft has already done something like that with Windows RT, and that worked not very well, right? And so I think what I would suggest is that they stick with a producer-friendly model, right? Make sure that if you do add in all that stuff, still make it very easy for folks that go out and produce to still do that, right? When it comes to something like Windows 10s, we're talking about secure environments, very locked down, but not very easy to use, right? So they have to think about a good mix of the two to make it secure, still very easy for folks to use. And so we do think that the next big focus area in Windows automation in the short term is desktops, right? Server automation is pretty much a solved problem. A lot of the talks here have been about consistency, about bringing that to environments. That's a lot more on server automation, where you have cattle, right? Cattle and pets, we kind of like that. And so when you have people that have their own devices or have these devices, they have more of, this is what goes on there, this is what I like, these are my configurations. It's very much a pet, right? And so thinking about these inconsistent things and still being able to automate them, that's what we think is out there. And if that sounds like a challenge, there's a good reason, because that is a bit challenging. And so if someone was to bring a technology that's going to win in this, they just have to follow, again, the 12 simple steps to do that. But really, it's about automating the painful, making it easy to use, and then focusing on user experience, because without user experience, a good user experience, you don't have any of this. But to have a good user experience, you really have to at least look at each one of these points to get there. Cortana, build me a laptop. So in a few years, we're going to look back on where we are now as that rotary phone. So we're going to see all the technologies that are like amazing right now are going to look super antiquated in about 10 years. Thank you.